In this video, I want to talk about metadata spoliation. Now, one of the questions I get is, how do I transfer data from my client, where data originated from, to my office or to my vendor without causing any kind of spoliation that I could get called out on, saying, hey, you damaged so-and-so, or you changed dates, or you changed metadata. So in this video, we are going to talk about that. Now, before we get into details, let's talk about two concepts that we need to understand. First, container files. Container files could be either PST files, NSF files, or zip files. And whenever you're working with those files, you're not actually interested in container files themselves. Container files metadata could be modified, changed, altered, thrown away, it doesn't matter. What we're interested in is the content of those container files. So the files inside the zip files or messages inside of a PST file. The second thing we need to talk about are internal and external metadata. So there are internal metadata that exists inside of a native file. So for example, like a Word document will have a metadata that is stored inside the file itself. It'll contain file created, file date modified, last author, last print, and so on. The external metadata or file system metadata will exist on a file system, such as hard drive, disk drive, file server, and so on. That's where the external metadata is stored. It also contains dates, date modified, created, and date accessed. It does not contain names or any other extra metadata. It contains very, very basic metadata that is managed by the operating system. Let's start with PST files. First question I get, is it okay for me to copy PST files, just drag and drop in them, burn them to a CD, or do something like that? And the answer to that is yes. PST files, they're container files. So it doesn't matter if you change metadata of a PST file itself. As long as the content makes it there safe, you're fine. The only exception for that would be like some kind of forensic investigation where you're trying to analyze when the zip file or PST file was created. But generally, zips and PSTs and NSFs actually get thrown out by the processing software, and only the content is being kept. That's why you're safe to copy PSTs, NSFs, and zip files whichever way you want. Well, if it's safe to copy PST and NSF files, is it okay to actually open them and peek inside the PST or NSF files and see what's inside of them? And the answer to that is generally no. You want to stay away from opening PST files and NSF files. What you can do is make your own copy of the file and then open it and see what's inside. And after you do that, you can delete it. So what tends to happen with these files is one of the properties of a message that you can alter by opening is whether the message was read or not. So you open a PST file and you click on, let's say, an inbox, and there could be messages there that the user have not opened. So they're marked in bold, meaning they haven't been opened. And if you click on those, or in fact, Outlook will automatically open that first message when you click on the folder, and the property will be changed from unread to read. And in that case, you are spoliating metadata and you change the property of a file. Now you can, of course, right click and say mark as unread, and you kind of undo what you did, but still it's best not to do that to begin with. All right, now what about loose edocs? Should you drag and drop them if you need to copy them over? And the answer to that is probably not. Now, if you are going to drag and drop files or burn them to CD or compress them in a zip file, you are most likely going to be losing some of the file system metadata that associate with those files. However, processing software normally prioritizes internal metadata to external, so you will not be losing much. Still, I would want to preserve all that metadata just in case. So if you add in data to an archive, I would use a WinRAR and store high precision last created and last modified dates. There is a checkbox for that in a separate tab, so look for that. And if you just copy in loose files, you want to use some kind of application like a safe copy that I used to use way back in the days that will copy files over and preserve all the date and timestamps. And of course, it goes without saying, you should not be opening loose edocs and poking around and doing anything in there. You are changing last access date and time if that's important to you. still don't do it. Make a separate copy of something, open it, look at it, and then delete that copy. So hopefully that answers your question as to what may or may not change files metadata and which metadata actually matters. Let me know what other actions in your opinion can spoliate metadata as well. If you have any, put them in the comment section below. I'd like to learn more about it. Talk to you guys later.